Hello, my name is Kyra.
My name is Dean.
Welcome back to the channel.
This is Vistas and Vittles. So, recently we did a video about 21 things they don't tell you about moving to Europe. Well, this is part 2. It's another 21 things they don't tell you about moving to Europe.
Because that video was so popular, we decided to come up with a few more things that nobody told us when we first moved here.
So, number 1, paper plates. And I can't tell you how frustrating this was to us our first month or 2 here, because we like eating our sandwiches at lunch or our pizza off of paper plates, so we don't have to wash plates. But they are just not a thing here. You can find them occasionally, but it's going to be like €5 for 10 or 15 plates. So it's really not worth it. So if you're looking for paper plates, when you come to Portugal in particular, I'm not sure about other European countries, I would really recommend that you not even try. It's going to be a waste of time.
Okay, the other thing that may leave a little bit to be desired is trash bags.
Yeah, this is number 2.
It's number 2. And the trash bags are very thin. So sometimes if you have a lot of garbage in your garbage can, you're going to need to double up on them, and just be aware of that.
And also, they measure them in liters, but not all measurements are the same. Your typical, what would be in the U.S., 13-gallon kitchen garbage bag would generally be a 50-liter garbage bag here. But I can tell you, depending on the brand and where you get them, they might not fit your trash can. You might have to stretch them, and then they tear when you put them over the lip of the trash can. So once you find the trash bag that really fits your trash can, I would stick with it and buy a supply.
Good idea.
Number 3, if you, like I do, use an app, a mapping app, to try to find your place from point A to point B, walking or driving, just know that at least where we are in Caldas da Rainha, if it comes up on your map app, for me it's Google Maps or the Apple app, if it says it's a 7-minute walk, plan on at least a 15-minute walk. I guess it just doesn't translate from where the app was created in Cupertino to here, but or you might even need an Uber ride. We walked on a 7-minute walk to an Italian restaurant a while back, and 30 minutes later we were there.
Yes. So just be aware of that. Number 4, streaming services. If you want to keep your streaming services that you have in the US, you may want to get make sure you're using a VPN on your TV with it to be able to get your same services. Otherwise, sometimes it'll say traveling. This is particularly true of any Amazon stuff that you might have. That's our dog, Lolly, by the way, making all the noise in the background. Sniffing and snorting. We do not have like a small child running around. That's her. Let's see. But just be aware, in order to keep your services, it'll be a good idea to have a VPN and have your VPN set to wherever home is on your official address.
Okay. So number 5, going back to Cupertino and apps. If you have an iPhone and you use the weather app, please be aware that at least in Portugal, it is often incorrect. It's like the satellites coming out of the Cupertino office have no idea where Portugal is. So it will generally tell you that it's raining in the country, but if it tells you it's going to be raining between 4 and 5 in the city where you are, count on it raining an hour or 2 earlier or an hour or 2 later.
Okay. We talked about last time that I don't know if we mentioned that refrigerators are usually smaller, but also ice makers and water dispensers are not as common here. If you decide you want to buy a new refrigerator, you can get that, but just be aware of like the regular refrigerator that's going to be in a rental anyway may not include that ice maker and the water dispenser that you are used to.
Right, your rental apartment might not actually have the hookup for it.
And that's number 6.
So, okay, number 7, Mexican food. You really cannot find, easily at least, pre-prepared Mexican food in Portugal, in our experience. There's the occasional Mexican restaurant. We haven't found one locally, and from what we've heard, they are, where you can find them, few and far between. They're generally not high quality. You can find like a Taco Bell, but if you want traditional, real good Mexican food, that's going to be difficult. But there are some supermarkets who carry the ingredients. So you can get taco seasoning here. You can get ground beef here. You can get tortillas here. You can get salsa. Be careful of the salsa you get because it tends to be a little on the sweeter side here.
You'll find after you've been here for a while, you get used to eating things with so much less sugar in it. And then if you go back to it, you're like, oh my gosh, this has so much sugar in it. But I did bring my own taco seasoning with me. And I would also say all of like the ingredients, cilantro, onions, hot peppers, things like that, they're all here. You're just going to have to make it to your own taste yourself, and big, nice, beautiful avocados. So number 8, there are really cool potato chip flavors here that nobody tells you about. There's prosciutto, there's ketchup, there's, I don't know how to say this, churrascaria. I'm totally butchering that. But basically like Brazilian cooked meat flavor, which is fantastic. And they also have a veggie flavor, but I have to say that the veggie flavor sort of tastes like light barbecue to me, and it might just be my taste buds.
All right. I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you to stay till the very end, because number 21 is a doozy. It's something that you're really going to want to know about. So I'm going to go on to number 9 right now. I'm a coffee connoisseur, and here you really need to know what you're ordering. Because if you order a coffee or a cafe, you're going to get an espresso, which is, in my opinion, delicious. But if you're an American, you might want a bigger cup of coffee than that.
Yeah, be aware, like a lot of times you're getting a super teeny tiny cup when you order. And Dean will tell you how he orders his to get what he considers an American coffee.
Right. Well, I prefer a double espresso now. I don't like sugar or cream or anything, just the pure coffee, the adrenaline jolt. But I order a Cafe Duplo, which is basically a double espresso. But I've also really enjoyed lattes, I've enjoyed cappuccinos, and I've enjoyed cafe americanos, which is basically an espresso with hot water in it. So learn what you like, and they will just give you what you like. If you're an American, you can even talk them into giving you a larger coffee, but Cafe Duplo for me is just perfect.
I'm a tea drinker, so this doesn't apply to me. I just say tea. It's good. All right, number 10. If you decide to rent or purchase a property, make sure you have a lawyer who's recommended by other immigrants already living in the area that you're living in to go over the contract before you sign it. Contracts in Portugal, the only thing that's valid in the contract is what is written in Portuguese. So very often a contract will come and one side will be in English, the other side will be in Portuguese, but you want to make sure that it says the same thing on both sides unless you're completely fluent in Portuguese and you can read the contract yourself. So this is something that we recommend, and it's especially, I don't know what I want to say, important that you do this, because a lot of times as people who are coming in from other places, if you're coming in from Canada, if you're coming in from another country in Europe, you may find a rental and you may really enjoy that rental for about a year. And then you may find that you want to be in another town. you want to move to another place in the same town, you want different amenities. And so what ends up happening is it's really hard to get a 1-year contract. Most contracts are 2 years because of that. They know most people want to break a contract after 1 year. So what you're going to want to do is make sure everything is laid out in that contract so that it's to your advantage when you're breaking the contract, as far as how much you need to either pay out more additional money or how much notice you have to give the landlord so that you are not paying out additional money.
All right, number 11. There is a dishwashing soap, for hand washing dishes called Fairy. And Fairy is the exact same thing as Dawn in the United States. And if you think you might need to bring Dawn, don't worry about it. Fairy is just as good. I'm not 100% sure whether it's made by the same company, but it's pretty much the same stuff, just as good a quality, and you don't have to fill your suitcases with that unnecessarily.
Yeah, and it's yellow instead of the traditional blue that you are used to. Number 12. You can pay your bills online at the ATM, which is something, at least in Portugal, it's something that's a little bit different because you can't really do that in the States.
What they do is for your invoices, be they medical invoices or your power bill, they'll give you an entity code that you enter in, and you can do this on the computer or at the ATM, and that'll show who you're paying, and then it'll give you a code specific to your bill. So I prefer to pay my bills online on my computer, but if you're stuck, you can pay your power bill or your medical bill or your water bill at the ATM.
Which is convenient for a lot of people, and you'll see people standing there for a while because that's what they're doing sometimes. If you go to the ATM and you're like, why is that person taking so long? It's because they're paying all their bills at the ATM. Just let you know. This is number 13. There are IKEAs in Portugal, but don't assume that one is close to you. You can get there. I know there's one in Lisbon, and there's a couple of others, but we had a friend who made the mistake of thinking the IKEA was much closer than it actually was, and they ended up having to buy things, have them shipped. It cost them a lot more money than they thought it would. Just when you're mapping out the area that you live in, if an IKEA is important to you, take that into consideration. Mm-hmm. You can figure out where they are. If you're planning on getting a remodel with an IKEA kitchen, take that into account. And just know that your shopping options are going to likely be different than you're used to. And while IKEA is an option, there are relatively few of them in Portugal, and they're kind of spread out. So if you want to be close to one, make that plan. I would say there are IKEAs in the larger cities. If you're in Lisbon, if you're in Porto, you're not going to have a problem. But if you're in some of the smaller cities, it might be a little harder, or it might take you a little longer to get that order. You can order online the way people do in the States. Just sometimes they might tell you, oh, we don't deliver to that area, which is what a friend of mine was telling me. So just be aware of that. All right, number 14. There are always people who are willing to help. A lot of times when we leave the States, we think, okay, I've got to do, this or that on my own. And I have found that there are people who will help if you are willing to ask, but sometimes you have to ask. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't think that, wow, I'm stuck trying to figure this thing out all on my own. Just, ask. People will help you. People are willing to help.
On a related topic, number 15, don't be afraid to appear a little stupid or to feel stupid. You know how things work in the country of your origin. Mm-hmm. It's kind of second nature. You really won't know that when you're moving to Europe. You'll get some things right. You'll get some things incredibly wrong. You'll say the wrong thing in conversation. You'll make a bad purchase decision. It's okay. You'll be fine. Everybody does it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't let it paralyze you. Don't go through the paralysis of analysis. Just let it happen. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from that feeling of being stupid and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 16. While there are no dollar stores in Portugal, there are something called Chinese stores, and this isn't being like derogatory. That's what everybody here refers to them as, and they are really similar to dollar store items. They're very easy to find. They're all over. I think we've got like 7 in our little town. Some of them have more clothing items. Some of them have more like dishes and things like that. So it's kind of fun sometimes to just go in and see what they have. But don't worry about missing the dollar store. You will find something very similar here for those of you that are dollar store people.
Okay. Number 17. In many apartments, most of the windows have pretty much a built-in shade that's either made of plastic or metal. Sometimes there's an electric motor. Sometimes you have to operate them manually by pulling on a strap. These are designed for temperature control because a lot of the places do not have heat or air conditioning. So if you lower these shades, which are by and large white, they will reflect the sunlight in the summer and keep your place cooler. And in the winter, they will keep your place warmer. So you'll notice that a lot of people have these shades down. It looks like there's nobody home. There's often somebody there, but they just have the shades closed to keep it warmer. And also keeps noise out, keeps the privacy. It's a handy device to have, and they're in most of the places that we've seen.
Mm-hmm. So number 18, milk and eggs are not sold refrigerated. The milk is pasteurized in such a way that it's shelf stable. Also, eggs are not refrigerated and can last several weeks if not washed. So you'll be looking for the eggs in the refrigerated section or the milk, and you're like, oh, it's over here in a totally different area. So don't let that shock you.
Okay, number 19. Certain channels, cable channels in the United States, such as Fox News and MSNBC, are not broadcast in Portugal at least, and perhaps some other places in the EU. They consider them opinion programs. And so while you can get something like CNN, you cannot necessarily get a broadcast version of MSNBC or Fox News.
But
it's against the law, basically, to broadcast them. But you can get around it because you can find many of these shows on YouTube.
yeah, so if you have access to YouTube, then you can go in and find, different programs, not just the programs that you're used to, but programs from Italy, programs from Spain, and things like that. So you can get a really nice, well-rounded news, news, what would you call it?
News program.
News program. All right. Number 20, electronics, phones, and computers have a tendency to be a little bit less expensive. Now, keep in mind, this is before all the tariffs were added. So I would definitely check the prices in Europe, check the prices in the States, and, see in the past, before the tariffs were added, what a lot of people would do is if they needed a new iPhone or they wanted a new computer, they would wait till they went back to the States and they would purchase it. And then they would come back to Europe with that item. But these days, I would say check the prices in both places and see, if that's going to work for you.
All right, number 21, and there's actually 22 things on this list. I thought there were 21. Number 21, your U.S. phone number. Mm-hmm. Okay, we've kept our mobile phone contract with our provider, but not everybody wants to do that. And really, for some banks and other institutions, they require a two-step verification.
Two-factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in doing that, you might need to keep a U.S. telephone number. There are ways to do that where it's cheaper than just keeping a contract with T-Mobile or AT&T. You can port your number over to a third-party service like Tello, which I believe is a subsidiary of T-Mobile, or in some cases you might be able to do it through Google Voice, although a friend of ours had problems with that. But there are ways to keep your U.S. phone number and therefore keep your two-factor ID in place and allow people to get in touch with you on that number pretty easily and at a lower cost than keeping your mobile phone contract.
Because you'll probably have also a Portuguese number, so paying 2 sets of phone bills, might be something to look at.
And what we have is we have an eSIM for our Portuguese phone number, which is a virtual SIM card that is available on most new iPhones. So our Portuguese number and our American numbers are both on the same phone.
And going forward, this should be something that maybe is not as big of a deal. But if you have an older phone, you may run into this problem. So the very last thing that we want to talk about is a banking fob for security. And this may be something that you have never ever heard of before. But if you are coming overseas and you're going to be doing any money transfers, a lot of times banks in the US will have something that they refer to as a fob. And this basically has a number that changes, I don't know, what is it, every couple of seconds? Or,
at least more than once a minute.
Yeah, and it changes frequently. And that's how they know that you are actually the person who is initiating a money transfer. So you may have to go to your bank and request this, and this is something that you will bring with you so that if you need to do any kind of money transfer, you're typing in this number and they know that it's you that is actually doing the transfer. And it's probably something that you haven't heard of, because until you're going to be either traveling on a regular basis, if you're going to be a digital nomad and you're out of the country, or you're living for a period of time in a place, it's not something that you would ever ask for. So not everybody at the bank may be aware of, so make sure you're talking to a bank manager when you're asking about this particular product.
And in our experience, it was free of charge once we requested it, but it took about a week or a week and a half to get it.
Yeah, I would say give yourself 2 weeks for it to show up from the average bank.
Okay.
All right.
So that's about everything, right?
That is it. So we hope you enjoyed our second 21 things. We will not be doing a third 21 things, just in case you were wondering. And if you are enjoying the channel, please like and subscribe. And we will have some other shows coming up soon. But if you've enjoyed our content and you didn't hear the first 21 things, then you can take a look up here. And this is another one of our shows over here. Okay?
All right. Thanks for spending some time with us, and we'll see you on the road.
Have a great rest of your week.